So, you watched the last video and you thought, why can't we use them both together in one equation? Well, we can. We're doing that now. Okay, so to solve an equation like this, we need to use both the addition and multiplication principle, and we're going to do it one after another. Do the addition one first. If right now you multiplied both sides of this equation by 5/4, you could technically do that, but it wouldn't help you because of this 2. You'd have to multiply the 2 by 5/4 as well, so you wouldn't really be getting rid of it. So think of it like order of operations, backwards. Do the addition first. Okay? So it really is like doing order of operations backwards because you're trying to undo everything that's being done to x. So subtract 2. On the left-hand side now, those cancel out, so we just have 5/4 x. And on the right-hand side, we just have 15. All right? And now use the multiplication principle. So just the reciprocal of 5/4 is 4/5. So multiply both sides by 4/5. Like so. Now you're done on the left-hand side. You just have 1 times x. And then 15 times 4/5 is the same thing as 3 times 4 or 60/5. So it's 12. And then go ahead and check that. 5/4. So go all the way back to the beginning. Plug 12 in for x. 5/4 times 12 plus 2 is 17, and then just like collapse the left-hand side and see what you get. 5/4 times 12 is 15. Or just do it in your head. 15 plus 2 is 17. Okay, so when you check it like that, it's almost like you're reversing what you just did. Okay, so sometimes it won't be so simple. We'll have to do a little bit of cleanup using the distributive property first and combining like terms. And realistically, like this is definitely the kind of one I'm going to put on the next test. So this is still a linear equation, even though it looks like it's got more stuff going on. 3 times 4z plus 1 in parentheses minus 4 equals negative 13. So now think order of operations. Just to clean this up, we have to clean it up before we do any kind of solving. So just deal with the parentheses first. And to get rid of the parentheses, you just use the distributive property to multiply this 3 in. Just remember it has to go to both terms. So it's going to be 12z plus 3. Notice I'm using z instead of x now. There's literally no difference, right? It's a variable. We don't know what it is, so we can use any letter we want. All right, 12z plus 3 minus 4 is negative 13. Go ahead and simplify the left-hand side. So get it as simple as you can before you use like the addition and multiplication principles. 3 minus 4 is negative 1, so 12z minus 1 is negative 13. Now use the addition principle. Add 1 to both sides. The left-hand side now is just 12z. The right-hand side is negative 12. Now finally use the multiplication principle. Multiply the left-hand side by 1/12 and do the same thing to the right-hand side. So the left side now we're done, it's just z. The right side is negative 12 times 1/12, which is negative 1. And again, I'd like you to check that. I'm not always going to do it because it's boring, but these are nice problems because on a test or whatever, you know if it's right because you just go all the way back to this first step, plug in negative 1 for z, and see that you get an equation that's true. Oh, like that. All right, so I mean, this is about as hard as this is going to get. These aren't that hard. So let's clean it up. We're just going to do exactly what we did in the first one, except notice that what's new here is that there's 2 copies of x. So I'll show you how to deal with that. Parentheses can go. Notice I did 2 things in one step. There's nothing wrong with that, even for you on a test or whatever. You can be working with the left side and the right side at the same time. In fact, you probably should be. So it's 2x minus 10 plus 4x. What happens here is it's like a negative 1 gets multiplied by both the terms, but notice what really kind of happens is just that all the signs flip. So however you think about that, it becomes 3 minus x plus 1 because it's minus a negative 1. So again, I'm showing more work than I really need to. I just moved the 4x using the commutative principle, and then I moved this 1 over. So now you can see that this is going to be just a 6x, this is going to be a 4. Again, doing two things at once, there's nothing wrong with that. It's 6x minus 10 equals 4 minus x. Now notice the difference is that we have an x on both sides of the equation. So we need to get all the x's on one side. To isolate x, you first have to get all of the x's on one side so you can get it by itself. And that's a principle that like never really goes away. So pay attention to this. Okay, there's be a couple different ways of doing that, and you would get to the same answer either way. So this is like smart algebra, right? Work smart, not hard. To me, it's easier to get this x over here because all you have to do is add x. And as a bonus, the thing that you get is positive. If you took this 6x and subtracted it over here, it would still work, but you'd have a negative 7x, which is fine, but it's negative, right? So that's harder to deal with, kind of. Okay, so add x to this side to get rid of it. That just means we have to add x over here. 6x minus 10 plus x equals 4 minus x plus x. The right-hand side, these x's cancel out. That's the whole point. The left-hand side, we can combine these like terms. So we're going to take 6x plus x and get a 7x. Right, all that's left over on the right side is 4. Now we're back to kind of where we were. Use the addition principle to add 10 to both sides. Now you just have 7x over here, and over here you have 4 plus 10, which is 14. Now we just have 7x equals 14. So multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal of 7, which is 1/7. And if you think of that in your head as dividing by 7, that's actually totally fine because it is the same thing, right? I don't need you to think exactly the same way as me. 7x times 1/7 is just going to give you x. That's the whole point. 14 times 1/7 is 2. Right? So this is why I say that multiplication by the reciprocal and division are the same thing. You're going to get the same result. So I can't make you do it one way or the other because it doesn't matter because they're the same. Okay, so there you go. Go ahead and check it. Just go all the way back to the beginning. It's important when you check these that you go all the way back to the original equation that I gave you. So it'd be 2 times 2 minus 5 plus 4 times 2 equals 3 minus 2 minus 1. It's a mouthful. But then you also now you're sticking in 2 in multiple places, right? Because there's multiple x's in the original thing. So go ahead and just do that. Maybe you can do it in your head, do it on paper. Again, it just makes you feel good that you know your answer's right. All right, story problem time. The width of a rectangular garden bed is 1 foot more than half the length. And the perimeter of the garden is 26 feet. Based on just that information, you can find the length. So the work here is translating these words into an equation. And I know people don't like story problems, but really this is probably the most important thing you ever do in math. Because like the whole point of this stuff is for you to be able to use it in your lives. Okay, so what do I say? When it's a geometry type of problem, always draw a picture, right? It doesn't matter that it's a garden. It just matters that it's a rectangle. So we're gonna draw a picture. So one of the most important things to take away from any mathematics course is how to translate a sentence written in English to a statement written in math. So when we say 1 more than half the length, okay, so half of the length, let's call the length L. We usually call length and width L and W, so maybe let's do that. If the length is L, then okay, what is 1/2 of L? Well, of usually means multiply. So 1/2 of L is the same thing as 1/2 times whatever L is, or L over 2. That's fine. And then 1 more than that means plus 1. Right? So 1 more means plus 1. So 1 more than half the length translates in math to 1/2 L plus 1. So that's what we can call the width. And here goes with my picture. So we're just going to draw a rectangle. So the length is actually less than the width. Although if your picture didn't reflect that, you'd still get the right answer. So we're going to call that L. This is W, and we know from what we just did that W is 1/2 L plus 1. Okay, so Now it's a rectangle, so let's label all the sides. So because it's symmetrical, this side is also 1/2 L plus 1, and this side is also L. So now here's where we use the other piece of information. We know that the perimeter is 26. If we didn't know that, then we couldn't figure any of this stuff out. So perimeter, you don't have to be a geometry expert to know the perimeter just means distance around. So just all the sides added together. So let's start at the top and go clockwise. All the sides added together is L plus 1/2 L plus 1 plus L plus 1/2 L plus 1. Let's put some parentheses so you know where I got that stuff. Sorry, it's really hard to see this mouse cursor, and that is something I will deal with in the future. Equals 26. If you instead said 2 times L plus 2 times 1/2 L plus 1, because the perimeter of a rectangle is 2 times on one side plus 2 times the other side, you would be right. And that actually might be a better way to do this, but I didn't do it here because that's just too much to get into. So all we did there is we added up all 4 sides, and now notice we have everything in terms of just L. There's no W's in here, so this is a linear equation in one variable. We haven't had to deal with any types of equations that have 2 variables yet, but we will. Okay, so that's our equation. So now my picture is about to disappear, so if you need a second, pause it and copy my picture. Okay, so there's my expression for my perimeter. Since W is 1/2 L plus 1, it's in a little different order than I just saw, but that's fine. So it's 2 L's and then 2 1/2 L plus 1's. And there you go. We have an equation. And then once, in any math problem, once you successfully translate it into an equation, you can kind of forget all about garden beds and rectangles. Now it's just something you're trying to solve until the end when I make you put units in. Okay? So really getting to here is, if you could do that on your own, I would be very proud and think like you're in great shape mathematically. Okay? Because that's important. So here we go. Combine all the like terms we can on that left side. So it's a little weird, but so let's just do L plus L is, 1 second. L plus L is 2L, and then 1/2 L plus 1/2 L is just L. Does that make sense? A half plus a half is a whole. So 1/2 plus 1/2 is 2 halves. But George, just think of it just like a half of something plus a half of something is just the whole thing. So we're going to have a 2L on this side from here, and we're going to have an L that comes from these ones, and then we're going to have a plus 2 because these ones are like terms, and 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay, so I could have jumped right to 2L plus L is 3L. If you did that in your own work, great. I'm happy. You should. But I'm just being careful for now. So, and then the 1 and the 1 are like terms, so they made the 2. So now it's 3L plus 2 equals 26. Now we can use the addition principle. Subtract 2 from both sides of the equation. Left-hand side is just 3L. Right-hand side is just 24. Now use the multiplication principle, multiply both sides by 1/3. Now we have L right where we want it, isolated, and then 24 times a third is 1/8. I'm sorry, is 8. You know that. I wrote it right. 24 times a third is 8. Okay, so finally, just don't forget the units. Okay, and finally, just not forgetting that I want units. The length is 8 feet. So let's just draw the picture again. We don't have to, but let's make sure it makes any sort of sense. Here's my length, and I'm telling you that's 8. And then the width is 1 more than 1/2 that, so the width is 5. Your picture doesn't have to be to scale. In fact, the first time I drew this, it actually wasn't because we didn't know. So the width is 5 and the length is 8. So now just look at that thing and say, okay, 5 is 1 more than 1/2 of 8, right? In the real world, I might have also asked for the width, so the length is L, the width is 5. And then just verify that, yeah, 8 plus 8 plus 5 plus 5 is, okay, 16 plus 10, which is 26. So the perimeter is 26 feet, and we have our garden, and everything is solved, and we're done for the day. Thank you.